stop. Can you stop? Honestly, can you fuck on? How do you go?
Don't freak out. Oh my God! Let there be wind. I've overdone it. But first of all, please let
See you go. Come on, David. Here you go.
form to perform on. A complete
If you want to get money, you need leverage. And there are three forms of leverage. There is obviously money. You got some money.
Give the gift of glamour this year at Curry's. This special edition blue blush Dyson Airwrap multi.
She's a Mona Lisa.
I'm deaf and blind. This is an aspect of my disability that I don't talk about very much on social media. This is because for the majority of my life, I've never felt blind enough or deaf enough to be accepted into these communities. I'm only blind in my right eye, and I'm only deaf in my left ear. Because these disabilities of mine aren't visible unless you ask me about them or unless you see my hearing aids, I automatically default to seeing them as less important. And even though my blindness and my deafness impacts my everyday life just like my other physical disabilities, and I post every day on my social media about what it's like living with disabilities, I realize that I'm unintentionally leaving out a big part of my disabled identity. As disabled people, we all have internalized ableism. This comes from living in an ableist society. I'm in the process of unlearning my internalized ableism, and I've learned that one of the ways I can do that is by being more open about my blindness and deafness and how they impact my everyday life. Thank you so much for coming with me on this journey as I educate both you and myself about internalized. Come decorate our new apartment for Christmas with us. Surprise, we moved in together. So one of the aspects that I don't talk about very often about my disability is that I am blind out of my right eye. Once I tell people this, usually their first question is, were you born blind? And the answer is no. So here is the story time of how I became blind. So with my type of dwarfism that I have, I am very... Today, December 3rd, is International Day of Persons with Disabilities. This is my service dog Champ. One of the most common questions I get about him from all of you is whether or not he ever gets time to be an actual dog. A lot of you are really concerned that he works 24/7, and that's just not the case. Just like humans, it's not good for dogs who have jobs to be working all the time. So without further ado, here's what Champ does when he's not working. I'm deaf and blind. This is an aspect of you know that a lot of people within the disability community don't like the word handicapped? It's true. Let me explain why. There's a lot of speculation about when this word originated, but what we do know for sure. Here's how I did my 100-pound service.
True or false?
This comment asks, my 4-year-old is becoming curious about people who appear different. What's the best way to approach this? Now, I'm not a parent, but here are some ways that I would recommend going about conversations surrounding disability with a young child. Number 1, I would find and start reading children's books that have characters with disabilities and positive disability representation. I think books are a great way to start introducing this topic very early on in a child's life. If you're out in public and encounter a disabled person, and your young child begins to point, ask questions very loudly, etc., don't shy away from this topic. I get it, it can be embarrassing. However, in my experience, a lot of parents will try to shush them. Don't do this. I have seen that when parents do this, it builds shame for their child around this topic. That's the opposite of what you want. Don't smother their flame of curiosity. Instead, if you can, I would pull them aside and answer their questions to the best of your ability. If you don't know all the answers, that's okay. Go home and watch some disabled creators on social media with your child. This is a great way to educate yourself and your child about. Here are 3 terms I hate as a disabled person. Number 1, special needs.
Ew.
My needs aren't special. I have the same needs, wants, and desires that you and everyone else has.
Like
I might
the-
need more help or accommodations
Unless.
in order to have some specific needs of mine met, but that doesn't make my needs themselves special. Number 2, differently abled. Unless someone wants to inform me that I suddenly can either read people's minds or fly, I do not possess any different abilities. I'm just a human being. I'm sorry to disappoint. And number 3, handy-capable. Just because you take an old word that's outdated and rooted in ableism and then add a few new letters to it, it doesn't make it any less offensive. And it's still rooted in ableism. It just has some pizzazz now, I guess. I know these terms are usually said out of kindness. However, when non-disabled people use these terms, it's contributing to the history of villainizing the words disabled and disability. And like I said, this comment asks, how can you stand? All disabilities are complex and diverse. In my case, I'm an ambulatory wheelchair user, which means that sometimes I use my chair for longer distances, and sometimes I'm able to walk around. For me, it just depends on my pain levels and the circumstances of the day. This comment says, it's not a disability, it's a different ability. Let me explain why a lot of us in the disability community don't like the term different ability. For me personally, I know that my body is different. This means there are a lot of things that I can't do. Just because I physically can't do something by myself, it doesn't diminish my worth as a person. Nor does it mean that I don't live a very happy and successful life. But the term different ability and other terms like it have always rubbed me the wrong way. Because when we're using these terms, not only are we beating around the bush, but we're also telling young kids that disability must be a bad thing because we're not actually saying the word disabled. I used these terms for a long time when I was younger, and it actually contributed to my internalized ableism. This is why I think it's important to say the word disabled. Disabled is not a bad word.
We have a
Here's
difficulty.
your guide to things you should not do to someone with dwarfism. And before I get tons of comments asking, yes, I do have dwarfism, and yes, all of these things have happened to me multiple times. Number 1, do not come up to us and dramatically bend down to meet our eye level. I'm not a child, and when people do this, it feels infantilizing. Number 2, if I am with someone else, don't talk about me or ask a question about me to the person I'm with. Again, this is extremely infantilizing. Would you do this to an average height person? Didn't think so. Number 3, don't come up to us and pat us on the head. Again, I am not a child. Are you tired of hearing me say that yet? Yeah, me too. When people do this, it often makes me feel like a dog or an object. That's not a fun feeling. Number 4, do not take pictures of us without our consent. Now, every time I say this, without fail, there's always one person in my comment section who says, well, it's not illegal to take pictures out in public. You're right, it's not. However, I hope you have the common decency to not make someone feel uncomfortable, and to just downright not be creepy. This makes me feel unsafe. Don't do it. Number 5, do not reach over the top of our heads. Let's bring it back to kindergarten and all respect each other's personal bubbles. And finally, number 6, do not pick us up. A lot of us, like me, have other medical issues that you may not know about, and by picking us up the wrong way, you can be injuring us. Just be a decent human being. Thanks for watching. We're here for boxes. Why are we in the Christmas tree aisle?
Oh. No.
Okay, I'm a part-time babysitter, and I always get really annoyed when the aisleways and stores aren't completely. You're here for boxes. Come with me to a red carpet event. First, we start the morning off at Disneyland. My family was in town for my sister's birthday, so I spent the morning with them. We got her a pretzel and me a churro, because, of course. Literally one person asked to see my crochet, and that's enough for me. This is my service dog, Champ. I've had him for 4 years, he comes with me everywhere, and he's the best service dog I could ever ask for. He also just had a birthday, but we were out of town, so we didn't get to celebrate. So when my boyfriend came to me and said,
Surprise party for Champy!
we immediately got to work planning a surprise party for Champy. We went to our local pet store and grabbed a toy and some treats. Hey baby, people have some questions for you. Want to answer them? Okay, this one isn't really a question, but it says, this is how it should be in life. See the person, not the disability.
I'm confused.
It means that you don't see my disability, you just see my personality, I guess? Like, ignore the disability.
Oh.
Do you see my disability?
Yeah. Very obvious.
Does that change anything about our relationship?
No. Most times it doesn't. Sometimes it would. Like when I want to, like, do something a little bit more, like, physical or something.
Like activities?
Like, activity-wise. Physicality of, like, the endurance of, like, possibly, like, walking around.
Yeah.
In a long walk on the beach. Can't really do that. Unless we get, like, one of those sand wheelchairs.
Yeah.
We haven't really done that yet. It's kind of on my agenda. I'm still trying to figure out a way how to do that. That's why we haven't had a date like that yet.
Okay. You want to say bye?
Bye. You want to go inside?
Here is your guide to things you should not do to a wheelchair user. Before I get tons of comments asking me if these things actually happen, the answer is yes. All of these things have happened to me many times. Number 1, do not come and stand directly in front of us. I'm not sure why so many non-disabled people think that this is okay, but if you wouldn't stand directly in front of another non-disabled person while they were clearly trying to look at something, don't do it to a disabled person. Number 2, do not push our wheelchairs without permission. Even if you think you might be helping us get somewhere, I promise you, unless we have specifically asked for your help, you are not helping us. Number 3, do not continuously run into our chairs just because you need to get through. Let's take it back to kindergarten and respect everybody's personal bubbles. Would you continuously run into the side of a non-disabled person with your cart to get past them? Didn't think so. Number 4, don't come up behind us and tip our chairs backwards. Not only is this not a pleasant surprise, but it could actually be very dangerous. And finally, number 5, do not come up and just move us out of the way like an object. If you need to get somewhere and we're in your way, usually basic manners still work. Thanks for watching. So we have girl math, we have boy math, we have dog math, and I saw my friends the Rolex do wheelchair math the other day, so I thought I would share. Here's how you can spot a fake service dog. Number 1. Here are 2 things that you use every day that I bet you didn't know were originally created for disabled people. Number 1, the electric toothbrush. Electric toothbrushes were originally created to help those with limited mobility be able to brush their teeth independently. Number 2, curb cuts. Before World War II, these didn't really exist. If you were a wheelchair user and you needed to get up a curb, you had to find the nearest driveway. And in a lot of cases, that was very unsafe. It wasn't until after World War II that curb cuts were starting to be implemented in the U.S. This is because a lot of people got injured in the war and then came back from war and were now newly disabled. And a lot of those newly disabled people were now wheelchair users who needed to get around in a safe manner. It would be another 45 years before the Americans with Disabilities Act was signed into law. So some individual states recognized that it benefits everyone. Did you know that there are 2 different types of language that are preferred by the disability community? It's true, so let's talk about the difference between person-first and identity-first language. An example of person-first language is the model with the disability. An example of identity-first language is the disabled model. You will hear person-first language in legislation such as the Americans with Disabilities Act. This is because of the People First movement in the 1970s. However, the 1970s was over 45 years ago. The disability community, as well as society. Call me crazy if you want, but I've never liked store-bought pets. Susie, you're wild. So when I was 11, I was going in for one of my standard spine surgeries, and I have a really rare form of dwarfism. This comment says, this is how it should be in life. Just see the person, not the disability. Please don't send any hate to the original commenter. I genuinely think they had good intentions. But let me explain why this mindset is actually not present in any of my relationships, especially my romantic relationship with my boyfriend. I am a disabled woman. I own that title very confidently. Disability is not a bad word. My disability is a part of me. It shapes everything about my life. It means that I move through the world a little bit differently than you do, and that's okay. It also means that I can't do some of the things that you can do, and and that's okay. If my boyfriend adopted this mindset of ignoring my disability, it would mean that he wouldn't really be seeing all of me. My disability holds history. It's a part of my life. And by choosing to ignore it, you are ignoring a part of my story. And this might make it harder for you to understand the struggles that I go through every day, and the ableism that I and so many others are actively trying to combat every day. If you don't see my disability, you don't see me. Thanks for watching. This is how my service dog and I fly on a plane. This is what it would look like if disabled people treated non-disabled people the same way we get treated in public. This is how we're treated. This is what it would be like if the roles were reversed. This looks weird, right? Let's look at some other examples. Would you like a random stranger coming up to touch you? Didn't think so. No one likes to be moved out of the way forcefully. Let's take it back to preschool and just all keep our hands to ourselves. What people don't understand is that for disabled people, our mobility aids are an extension of our bodies. By touching someone's mobility aid, you are touching them. If you wouldn't like any of these things done to you, don't do them to disabled people or anyone for that matter. Thanks for watching. This is how my service dog and I fly on a... This is what it would look like if disabled people treated non-disabled people the same way we get treated in public. This is how we're treated. This is what it would be like if the roles were reversed. This looks weird, right? Let's look at some other examples. Would you like a random stranger coming up to touch you? Didn't think so. No one likes to be moved out of the way forcefully. If you don't know my boyfriend and I, he likes to take me on hikes that are not accessible.
This is pretty accessible.
This is a giant hill.
The other one had concrete things in the middle.
Did you know that the word midget is considered a slur?
Do you need help?
Here's your guide on things you should not do to a wheelchair user. Before I get tons of comments asking me if these things actually happen, the answer is yes. All of these things have happened to me many times. Well, except for the last one. Number 1, do not come up to us and pat us on the head. Do you want a stranger touching you? I didn't think so. So don't do it. Number 2, do not put your shopping bags on our wheelchair handles. I have had so many people do this. Put it on the ground. Number 3, don't push us out of the way. Would you grab a non-disabled stranger by the shoulders and move them out of your way? Didn't think so. Number 4, I know we look different and you might not encounter a wheelchair user in your everyday life, but please don't stare at us like we're in a zoo. Number 5, don't step over the top of us. I had someone grab me just like this in order to step over the top of me. Don't touch us. Number 6, you do not need to get all the way on the ground in order to talk to us. Unless we are in a very loud or busy environment, I don't need to be talked to like this. Number 7, if you see a wheelchair user stand up from their chair, please don't gape at us. Ambulatory wheelchair users do exist. And finally, number 9, don't jump over us. Thanks for watching.
Do you need help? How do you want this?
You don't even want it. Where are you running? Here's your guide on things you should not do to a service dog team. Number
That's right.
1, if you see a service dog that's working, don't touch them. I know my dog is very big and very fluffy, but he's also not yours. Don't do that. Number 2, don't lurk behind aisles, displays, or anything else just to stare at a service dog. You are not being subtle. We can see you, even if you don't think we can. Number 3, don't take pictures of us without our consent. I know I'm a model, but I'm usually not runway ready when I go to the grocery store. Number 4, don't touch service dogs. Number 5, don't feed service dogs. Champ does not want the lint-covered piece of pepperoni from your pocket. Number 6, I know a lot of service dogs like mine are very large, but please try and resist the urge to ride a service dog like a horse. Number 7, do not touch service dogs. Are you tired of hearing me say that? Yeah, so am I. Number 8, don't try to take a service dog away from its handler. I know this one's difficult, but in this case, sharing is not caring. Number 9, don't touch service dogs. Thanks for watching. Here's your guide on things you should not do to a service. Sorry, you can't bet me working.
I thought you weren't gonna laugh.
I wasn't trying to.
That is my laugh.
No.
I used to have a black lab.
Oh
Died of
my god.
I thought you were an actor.
I'm trying. Okay.
His name was Ken.
No, stop. Stop. No. Yeah. Okay, go. What? Oh, sorry, you can't edit me for a second. Oh, sorry, he's working. You can't edit him. Here's your October is dwarfism. I have a prosthesis. Come shoe shopping with me. I absolutely hate shoe shopping with my prosthesis, and you'll see why in a second. I needed a sparkly, strappy sandal, and I wanted a heel on it, so that's what we were looking for. A lot of people are very surprised that I can wear heels with my prosthesis, and I will show you exactly how I do it. I start by taking my prosthesis off. I get a lot of questions asking what my prosthesis type is called. This is called an orthotic foot-on-foot prosthesis. I wear this because while I have a leg, it is significantly shorter than my other leg. So this just helps to even me out. I hate shoe shopping because it's just a very tedious process. Not to mention that a lot of people like to stop and stare at me while I'm changing my shoes out. As you can see, I needed a little bit of help putting the shoes on my prosthesis, so I asked my boyfriend. To change the angle of the ankle, we push this little button on this side of the prosthetic foot. This allows my real foot to be as parallel to the ground as possible when walking. Next, I walk around to make sure I'm not